Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program Midday Discourse on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining, and still in the spirit of celebration, I would say Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. On today's edition, we'll be extraying and assessing the impact of privatization in Nigeria. And on this note, most of our industries have been privatized, and then we're going to be assessing what they've been doing for the past years that have been, privatized, and how impactful it has been to Nigeria and the Nigerian people. So we x-ray all of that. I have a guest who will be joining me virtually, who would help us x-ray all of these angles onto this edition. But we'll be going on a quick break, and when we return back, we'll get into the conversation on Midday Discourse, where the conversations begin. Please do stay with us. All right, many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, you're not late. This is Midday Discourse, and welcome on board. Happy Independence Day to you. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. So we'll be extraying the impact and then of privatization in Nigeria, and how beneficial has it been to the Nigerian people, and as well as the economy of Nigeria in total. So I'll be introducing my guest who is joining me all the way from the United Kingdom, Mr. Larry Toluhi. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining, and happy Independence Day to you from here to you in the UK. How are you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, Sam. Good afternoon, Nigerians, and happy independence to Nigeria and Nigerians. I wish this our 64 years of nationhood will bring about good tidings, progress, and unity, which is most important for us at this moment.
Okay, now we will be accessing the private sector and its impact on Nigeria, since a few of our industries have been privatized for over a decade, and then we are just going to be looking at it to see how well have this privatization benefited Nigeria. And the major reason why most of this privatization happened was because it was motivated for Nigeria's decision to privatize its own enterprise, as well as to generate more workforce, and as well as generate power. Let's looking at the electric power sector now. But on that note, looking at the electricity and power sector now, we've witnessed a whole lot of downtime, and a whole lot of persons cannot even boast of a 20-hour power supply, given the fact that they have segregated most of the areas into bands. And looking at those factors now, some persons are still saying they don't get enough light. Do you think that privatization of the power sector has actually, helped Nigeria and Nigerian people?
Thank you, Sam. But I think first, right, before I answer your questions, it will be better that we actually have some little background knowledge of what this privatization is all about. We all know that privatization is about us or is about a government transferring the ownership and the management of state-owned enterprises to private entities. And the main reason for this is to improve efficiency, is to improve investment and management of these various sectors. And we know that, sorry, for the background policies for these or the foundational policies for these, privatization is not something new to Nigeria. It started in the late 80s. And I know a lot of Nigerians will want to do in the late 80s because when we have the structural adjustment program, that was when privatization started in Nigeria with the administration or the regime of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, which was the goal was and the goal of this SAP, which we call the Structural Adjustment Program, was to reduce government involvement in the economy and to promote efficiency and to attract private investment. And this actually gained more momentum during the second coming of our President Olusegun Obasanjo when he came in as a democratically elected government, and which was in the early 2000s, which we helped to try to see we need to reduce the public sector dominance and encourage what we call the private sector investment, which we knew was important for the people and all that. Then we now understand that we started with telecommunication and we had a good success story with our telecommunication. Whether we want to believe it or not, there was growth, there was massive expansion, there was expansion of coverage, and we moved people with over 150 million mobile phone subscribers of today. And it is more compared, look, which is we. And it gave us employment, it gave us innovation, it boosted our employability, it brought that innovation, it helps in our e-commerce and all that. Now, let me now answer your question in time of electricity. For me, in time of power sector, it is a mixed result, and I'll say that because the privatization of the Nigerian power sector in 2013 was aimed to address the chronic energy shortage that has been less successful. But what are the challenges of these guys? They have challenges. And we know that with the private sector investment involvement, the sector has continued to face issues of efficiency, poor service delivery, frequent what we call blackouts, customer complaining about high tariff with nothing to show for it, erratic supply. And what happened? We have this discourse, even with what these discourse are providing, because they were unbundled to discourse, Gencos, and all that. Now, when the Gencos, these are the generation companies, what they even generate, can we say it is enough? Yes, it is not enough, but the little of what they're actually generating, the discos, which is the distribution companies, are struggling to get these things delivered to Nigerians. Why? Because of the infrastructures we have and all that. Maybe we did not even do a proper SWOT analysis of what we have. We didn't do a proper analysis. And if because we didn't do this proper SWOT analysis, there are all kind of analysis we should have put in place before going into this. This analysis were not done. SWOT analysis were not properly done. The PERS2 analysis were not properly done. And our analysis were not, or our projection were not smart in terms of they were not specific, they were not measurable, we didn't do all these things. And because of that, we are seeing all these shortages. So in a way, we cannot really say the power sector privatization has failed, but at the same time, we cannot say it's a success. So it's actually a mixed feeling because you see that there has been some investment, it has brought in new innovation, then the end users are not getting what they need to get. So it is a two-way thing. It's neither good nor bad, but we know we can actually do better because there is room for a lot of improvement.
Looking at these other factors on the angle of privatization still, how can you measure the level of livelihoods of Nigerians, particularly workers in private industries? Do you think that this privatization that has been happening over the years now has been able to affect the livelihoods of Nigerians positively, especially those, particularly in the private workers, especially those workers in the private sectors.
Yes, it has, because it has created employment opportunities. Like I told you, like look at telecommunication.
Mm,
Telecommunication, the progression of telecommunication has helped, whether we like it or not, our innovation. It has helped our IT. It has helped our bank, even the banking sector. You know what it is before, when you go to the bank and they will tell you the service is down, you'll be in bank from morning to night and nothing is happening. You're being back for days just to withdraw the amount of funds, and you end up not seeing. But now you could see it is, everything has gone. We have mobile banking, we have the automated teller machines all around, we have all those, the point of sales machine and all that. All these are happening. The e-commerce, you can actually be in your house. For, like you said, you can actually be self-employed. You see, you have all those e-commerce platform where you can put. We have some companies in Nigeria that are doing very well, where you just put in your product out there online, and you don't need a physical shop or a physical office where you operate. So it has helped. And in time of generating employment, it has. We've seen that even in the banking, like I said, it has given us stability and growth. And government, we've seen them. We have more regulatory, we have more stability. You can see people having stability in bank. The banks are growing. There are challenges, yeah. Even in the petroleum sectors, we've seen them, everything. So when you talk about in times of employment, job creation, and in time of wealth or revenue generation, privatization has helped a lot, because you see the initial takeoff from this privatization has been very, very awesome, because you see that uh, uh, some sectors have had to lose, some redundancy has been taken care of, which has encouraged professionalism, it has encouraged decent workers being well paid, new opportunity coming into, and a lot of things happening like that. So when you see all these things happen, you see people are beginning to become innovative, people are beginning to see where skills are being appreciated, people are beginning to see that we can grow. And workers, yes, privatization is not the only thing affecting the life of workers in Nigeria. But I feel and I know that privatization has actually helped lessen the burden, because if there had not been privatization, the action probably have been harder.
okay. Now, how can we measure the success and failures of Nigerian privatization program if you had to measure it now statistically? How well can you say privatization has like impacted Nigerian society?
Yeah, privatization has actually, look, when you talk of measurement, there must be KPIs, which key performer indices, that must be set. So what are these KPIs that are set? You see, I am not the government. I'm not the one. I'm not involved in privatization. So I don't know the KPIs they set for every sector that we privatize. Because it's when we see these KPIs that we can say, okay, have they actually measure up to these KPIs? Have they met them? But if you look at it holistically, they need to understand that privatization, I can only give recommendation, policy recommendation, because I can't really measure them, because I am not there. Because what I might term as failure, some might say it's not failure based on what they have, based on the total overhaul of it, or the total studying of what they've had. Because you look at it, all we can only give is give recommendation in what approaches they can use. Because if you want to privatize where government are privatizing, they must have, one of the recommendation must be that it must be an holistic approach to it. It should be complemented with strong regulation, clear policy, and incentives to ensure that long-term success, particularly in sectors like power and petroleum. Because when you don't give them, and that's why you've seen the Gencos, the Discos in the power sectors are failing. They've not given them this strong regulation. What are the regulation? What are the regulations? What are the policies? What are the do's and don'ts? What are the incentives? What are the carrot and stick? What are the measure taken? And that is what holistic approach must be applied, which is my first recommendation. My second recommendation will be investment in infrastructure. Private sector need to do more incentives to invest in critical infrastructure, particularly in electricity and in our refining capacity. Because We must give them policies that are good for people to want to bring in funds. You can see how we have the naira being floated. We took out subsidy. We did a lot of things. What are the foreign direct investment? Who wants to bring the money into Nigeria and invest? Because it's not just privatizing. We must give good policies for people to want to invest their hard-earned currency or hard-earned funds in Nigeria. We must learn that. And the third recommendation I have is for inclusive growth. It must be policies that should encourage privatization to promote not profitability alone, but to include growth, because there must be growth. We must begin to get to a stage in Nigeria. I want to ask us a question. How many Nigerian companies or how many locally companies in Nigeria can we say have celebrated 50, 60, 70th anniversary? Because you see immediately that the proprietor or the key force of the business in Nigeria is retired or dead, the business die. You've not had good structure. So government needs to look into ensuring that there are structures that grow so that ordinary Nigerian will benefit in improved services and employment. That no matter what happens to the, the founder or the proprietor or whoever it is, the business can take care of itself because of government policies. We must understand that um, privatization in Nigeria is a mixed bag, like I would say. We have not done what we need to do. We need to do what we need to do as a people. So measuring it is tough. Because for me, measuring it is one of the toughest things because we've not actually at the initial stage or ab initio, we've not done what we needed to do. We've not set rules. We've not given measurable KPIs. We've not given what we need to do to measure it.
Looking at those angles now of your recommendation, how well can you say the Bureau of Public Enterprise has played in terms of Nigerian privatization process? That is now, despite the fact that a whole lot of our major industries have been privatized. Looking at NASCO, mostly almost everybody now eats from Dangote instead of Nigerian NASCO and stuff. Looking at those angles now, how well can you say privatization now has been able to create more jobs? Looking at the current statistics that we have of all the current rise of unemployment that we are facing, though the government needs to take hold of a few of these agencies or industries that they have privatized so as to help create more jobs? Or do you feel, or do you think that is more better if it's just privatized? Looking at the Bureau of Public Enterprise now and their role being played in terms of privatization.
Thank you. First, I think NASCO is actually a private company too. And Dangote just took advantage of what is happening in Nigeria and is doing well also to address that. And in time of Bureau for Public Enterprise, the Bureau for Public Enterprise, it just boils down to the Nigerian bureaucracy with a lot of bureaucratic moves and all that on and on in circle, and us not seeing what they've done. You see, the truth is, like I've said in this forum and other fora I've been, Nigeria has never lacked good laws. They've never lacked good policies to work. Our problem had been the implementation of these laws and these policies. Now, when you look at it, the Bureau for Public Enterprise, when you do all these things, what is the enforcement? Because the enforcement is not just making these policies, it's the enforcement that actually helps in development. We don't enforce anything in Nigeria, and we must learn how to start enforcing. When we start learning to enforce things, that is how we now see it. And when you talk about unemployment, like I just said, when I was talking about my recommendations, you see, because we didn't look at these things holistically, we've not made the rules. You see, there is nowhere in the world, there is no economy in the world, there is no government in the world that has been able to provide job for its citizenry. What every economy and what every government has been able to do is to provide an enabling environment for businesses to strive so citizens can be taken care of. The small, medium scale businesses have been the one driving every economy in the world. If you can fact check me, you can go look at anybody can go study this for those that are interested in studying it. you will discover that it is the small, medium scale of every economy that have developed or that is developing have been development have been championed by the small, medium scale, which are companies that can take in between 5 to 100 to 200 people, quickly, and a lot of them. But what the government does do is the government ensure that there's enabling environment, and that is what is lacking in Nigeria. So it is not the failure of privatization; it is the failure. It's not the failure of the private company or private entity taking over this government assets. It is the failure of the government to provide enabling environment. How do you explain people to how do you explain people to make profit and break even when the cost of power, what I mean, electricity and all, or diesel or whatever things to use in powering the equipment is only into billions in a year or in a year. So people they can't count their growth even when they make profits. So we need to understand, and when there's insecurity, when there's a lot of things, it is the government. The government need to understand that they need to provide enabling environment. See, you can actually give tax, you can give tax, you can decide to give tax break, but not free tax break like that. You can decide to make them, okay, you're going to pay 1 billion for tax. Okay, you're not going to pay 1 billion for tax. Do this in terms of CRS, and it must be done. It might not be up to 1 billion, it might be like 800 million. They're saving themselves with 200 million, and that will take care of some things in government and use 100 million to involve in infrastructural development. There are a lot of things. You can be creative, government can be creative. It does not have to be by the book. And I think one of the problems we have in Nigeria is we have a lot of theorists and by the book set of people that come to run our economy. No, we need to understand that every economic policies must be domesticated. So the government in Nigeria must learn how to give enabling environment for growth. And that is how and the only way we can address the unemployment rate and all that.
Do you think the said 7.5, the current VAT now and tax that has been paid by most of these private sectors is at 7.5, and now it's being said that it's going to be increased to 10%. Looking at that angle now, the monetary policy keeps getting tightened almost on a monthly basis. Do you think this is going to put a constraint on private investors that would want to invest in Nigeria in the near future? And what does this mean to Nigerian economy in the nearest future?
That weekly shouldn't have had, but it won't directly have. See, that would shouldn't have affected foreign investors because Nigeria is a huge market. Talking of a market with over 2 million, unofficial 200 million people. It's a huge market. People will come. Like I'm just saying, the tax and all that might not be the problem. But if there's an enabling environment, imagine that the running costs in time of powering your event or powering your company or powering your organization or your firm, if the running cost in time of powering is being lessened by about 80%, the tax won't be your problem because you will make the money and you cannot recruit more people. You do that. But the tax, even if the tax at 7.5 as it is today, because of the cost of running, the running cost is high, they're going to be complaining. So directly, that's not what the problem is. It's just that it had an indirect ripple effect. If we want to, instead of government increasing tax and doing that, the government should focus on making the the condition favorable, the condition good enough for investors to come. It is not just tax, because I've seen what is happening in Nigeria now. It's just tax. The government is not being creative. The government is not taking we cannot just keep taxing. If you tax, what do you want to tax? Very soon you're going to be taxing people their blood. It's not about tax. You must be creative, you must be innovative in your thinking, you must be proactive in how you tackle these things. Government must provide an enabling environment for businesses to strive. believe in Nigeria is a good market. We can see what is happening. Some companies are leaving Nigeria and they are going to Ghana. Ask yourself why they're going to Ghana. They might not like Ghana because cost of running is lower in Ghana. Now, but the proximity, the normal law of commerce and economies, which is proximity to market, apply. They know it is easier to operate in Ghana, but the Nigerian market is actually the target. So the little tax you should be getting in Nigeria is even going to Ghana. The employment opportunity that we should be getting in Nigeria is happening in Ghana and some neighboring country. Why Nigeria is the target? Why? Because the government of Nigeria have refused to make the environment or condition and make the environment conducive enough for businesses to strive. What Nigeria just need to do is take a pause, take a break, think, make the environment conducive so that the proximity to the market can be in Nigeria. So if you want to tax, you can tax them. Employment too can be done in Nigeria, not in Ghana and some other close neighbors.
Okay, taxation it's been one of the major challenges, but we'll extract other angles of this conversation, but we'll be going on a very quick break, and when we return back, I'll still have Larry Tolu here with me as we extract the other angles of this conversation. Please do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumain Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and a repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out. Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here. Time. Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jumain Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and a repeat every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here. Get ready for it. Inside Today brings you issues relating to family, peer pressure, drugs, substance abuse, societal and topical issues making rounds. Join Jermaine Manson on Global Television Monday to Thursday and it repeats every Friday. Time 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Don't miss out. Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Yes, many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Midday Discourse on Global Television. We've been having an interesting conversation, that is I and Larry Toluhi assessing the impact of privatization in Nigeria, the hiccups that privatization has, faced, and what the government needs to do to enable more foreign investors coming and join in the investment of Nigeria. But let's look at this other angle. We've had conversations around food and around communications. Now let's talk about the oil sector and what has been happening. So, Mr. Larry, if you can hear me, what are the implications of privatization of Nigerians' oil and gas reserve? Looking at what is going on currently now in Nigeria, petrol is being sold for almost 1,200 naira, depending on where you're getting. I think NNPC sells for around 957 naira thereabout. But looking at that now, Dangote refinery is now in the business of producing oil and then selling that's petrol. And again, there's been a backlash between Dangote and the NNPC. Do you think if the oil sector gets fully privatized, Nigerians will be able to enjoy the dividends of having petrol and diesel and kerosene at the subsidized price?
The petroleum sector privatization, which is the refineries privatization, is I think there are there are some basic things that we need to understand there, because one of the basic issue is the unfulfilled promises. And when I mean unfulfilled promises, they've been planned to privatize the Nigerian refineries. It has been slow and it's been controversial, and it's been controversial based on people's lack of trust in government, and the government not being straightforward with the people too. With us continually relying on the fuel import, despite being a major oil producing nation, it is appalling and it is sickening. Nigerians need to take away this sentiment of having refineries for having refineries sake. We have Kaduna, Warri, Malako refineries are in state of comatose. We have billions of naira being spent on these refineries, on a yearly basis, yet we got nothing from it. We have staff of these refineries not being laid off, but being paid and getting nothing from it. So why are Nigerians unnecessarily be sentimental about this? They should be privatized, and Nigerians get to bother who these things are being sold to. For me, it is not my business who owns anything. The only thing I will implore the government to do is they need to privatize these three refineries, but they should ensure that it is not going to the same entity. It is not going to the same set of people. It's not going to the same company. It should be three different entities. That means we are going to be having four refineries working with four entities because we already have Dangote refinery working. Then if we privatize the three we have to three different entities, that will cause what we had in the telecommunication sector. If you remember when we had telecommunication sector, when the first two first came out, they were billing us on per minute rates that when you make a call 1 minute, 1 second, you will be charged for 2 minutes. And I remember that in year 2000, December, when you want to buy your SIM, it's about 36,000 naira. But third the third force came in and they brought in billing by seconds, and they were even selling then when you buy their own SIM at 5,000, they give you 2 or 3 lines free. And the time they went, if you buy a SIM for 5,000, you have a recharge, you have a core card or a core credit of 5,000 in it. Now, in Nigeria, you can pick up your SIM for nothing. That is what competition brings about. It brings about credible competition, brings about our prices fighting itself and finding a way to give good product and at the same time giving good product, giving good services, and ensuring at the cheapest available price it will come in. That is what we need to do. So government should privatize this company, and Nigeria should throw away this sentiment of who is buying or who is not buying. Our own is that what we should be demanding is when they're privatizing, they should ensure that whatever entity that is buying these refineries should be able to give us to give us the best fuel at the best minimum price, which in business analysis we call the minimum viable product MVP, so that when we get there, people can be able to have access. We don't need to queue for fuel. When I drive into any fuel station or service station, I should be able to get fuel in less than 5 minutes, and I should get a good fuel at the best amount of money I should be able to buy it. So we should stop wasting, because we are being sentimental. We are keeping this refinery, we want it to be government. We spend billions of naira maintaining these refineries and they are not producing anything. We are paying overhead for staff that are not working because obviously there's no place to work. But if we come to the private sector, whoever is working in the private sector they will have deliverables, and they must deliver on what they are being delivered for before they get paid their salary. So these are the things we should do. Government should be forthright too with Nigerians and do a privatization that is open, that, like I said, there must be rules and regulations, there must be strict adherence to policies, there must be incentive to people that are doing well, and there must be sanction for those that are falling short of the standard.
Talking about standards now, do you think that the regulatory framework governing the NNPC is doing what it should do in terms of making sure that we don't have queues in our petrol stations all over the country? Because from let's just talk about this year alone. There have been queues all through the Federal Capital Territory, despite the current hike. So do you think the standard now and then the regulatory bodies are doing enough to be able to see to the enablement for people to have these products that they are willing to buy, despite the hike in it?
Well, for me, the NMP, like I said, you see, the NMPC is one of the if there's an English and darkened entity in Nigeria, an entity that nobody can say they've seen their audited accounts since the day of inception, an entity that nobody knows what they are doing, is an entity that cannot even tell Nigerians the amount of oil being produced on daily basis, not to talk of weekly or yearly basis. An entity that cannot give us what they've done or what they are doing, an entity that said they were paying subsidy even during COVID when everywhere was locked down and they were paying the same amount of they were paying the same amount they paid while the country was busy, everybody was out, and they were paying the same amount when the country was on total lockdown. So for me, I don't like talking about NNPC because Nigeria, if Nigeria wants to grow and if Nigerians really need development, that body NNPC needs to be scrapped. And it's not about, there is no sentiment about it. People need to be held accountable. And so when we say we see queues and we see long queues at filling stations and all service stations, is because, like I said, is because the government are still not serious about what they want to do. When the government is serious, they should privatize these refineries. NNPC had no business. Like I said, they even changed their nomenclature to NNPCL or whatever they changed it to. Have you seen them do anything? They've not done anything. It's just a garden of people that want to make Nigeria not grow that are there. So that is just, I don't like talking about them because every time I talk about them, I feel like it is sickening to talk about them. But like we said, the Nigerian government can. We need to privatize our NNPC and privatize the refineries and what government needs to do to make this. I can help. We can tell them on what to do. We already have these assets. We have these refineries, three of them. There might be no money for private sectors to take them on based on what these assets are worth. The government can decide to use it to own equity in these different entities that are coming to buy and say, look, okay, this asset is worth this. You are meant to pay X amount of money, excess amount of money, but because this asset is worth this, we want you to bring this in as part of making these refineries work. And because we have excess amount of legacy property or legacy investment, we are going to be having X amount of equity of the new company. That is what it should just do.
Okay.
Is the charade NNPC should be scrapped as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, before we totally move away from the NNPC conversation, I think the Senate needs to invite Madam Carey again to be able to come explain the delays of the Port Harcourt refineries, because he kept promising and promising and promising, just like he is telling us his name, that the refinery will get to work. And then a whole lot of things have been going on, and as well as Mr. Femi Falana, son, also wrote to the contractor, the person in charge of getting the Port Harcourt refinery working, and wrote to him to ask what the update is on the 14th of September. To date, we are yet to get a response from them. But we are hoping that the Senate, swing into action and be able to find a way around this whole back and forth with the Port Harcourt refineries that has been dragging since the year 2022. Moving away from NNPC and its back and forth, let's look at how Nigerian government now can improve the regulatory framework for privatized industries to help, boost and, make the Nigerian economy getting and give the Naira at least a certain value in terms of using Naira, which is our legal tender, to run every kind of business. How key do you think this is going to be for these privatized industries to use our legal tender to be able to run all of their businesses instead of using dollar?
First, the government there must be good governance and transparency in the time of Nigeria, and we must learn how to curb corruption and at the same time mismanagement, because there's a huge corruption and mismanagement of the whole privatization sector. And the whole thing in the whole of Nigeria, governance and all that. We need to start building stronger institutions, because if you want privatization to succeed, our governance structure, our regulatory framework need to ensure there is transparency, there is competitiveness, and there is equity and all that. And when you talk about having Naira to run if you are in Nigeria, you must run everything in Naira. We even see some of our government officials that don't spend naira. We know a lot of our government officers don't even spend naira. You see, it must start from bottom up. It must be a bottom down approach where the people at the top needs to start doing what's needed to be done and do what we need to do and do what they have to do to ensure that Nigeria actually grows. We are floated in naira, fine, but what are the policies we are making? Now, but because we've not done what we need to do, we don't have to jump gun because we think, oh, we need to jump gun, we want all those things. We need to start from ground zero. We need to start putting in place things we need to put in place. Maybe we need to now start getting a framework where, you see, we cannot be a consuming nation the way we are a consuming nation. We are not producing, we consume a lot, we don't produce. And because we don't produce, we cannot be sticking to naira. Because for me, that will be, we need to tell ourselves the truth. If you want to say, oh, naira, naira, naira. But we are a consuming nation. We are not going to be coming to buy things in the US or in the UK or in China or wherever we want to buy things in naira. We must first learn how to be a producing nation. When we start producing, before we talk that, so in as much as we consume, that policy is not going to work of wanting to run everything in naira. Because don't forget, if you are importing, you are not going to pay in naira. You cannot go to a shop in Singapore and decide to go and pay them in naira, or a shop in China or in Canada or China or Germany and pay them in naira. But if you are producing as a nation, you can answer, look, if you want to pay me, you pay me in naira. I want to get my money in naira, and this is what it is in naira. I can do a lot in naira. Once we reduce our consumption rate and increase our production rate, then we can actually make those laws.
All right, thank you so much. But I know you've given us recommendations earlier, so in 2 minutes, give us what's your final take on these major industries now that have been, privatized? What do you think can be done differently to be able to help create more jobs by the private investors? And as you've mentioned earlier, you rightly said Nigerian government need not to tighten the monetary policies and probably lessen the tax. So what do you think can be done now to be able to help create more jobs and cushion down the level of unemployment we have currently in Nigeria?
Okay. Like I said, first, like the recommendation I gave, there must be a holistic approach. There must be a holistic approach to it. Privatization should be complemented with strong regulation, clear policies and incentives to ensure long-term success, particularly in sectors like power and petroleum, which is our refineries. The second one is going to be investment in infrastructure. We need to invest in infrastructure. The private sector needs to do more needs to be given more incentives, needs to be given more policies that are friendly, needs to be shown or needs to be helped to ensure that there is a lot of investment in critical infrastructure, particularly in electricity and refining capacity. Then there must be the third one, which is the last one, must be an inclusive growth. Because policies should ensure that there must be policy to ensure that privatization promote not just profitability, but also inclusive of growth and ensuring that ordinary Nigerians, which are everyone, the day-to-day Nigerians, benefit from the improved services and employment. And I'll be concluding in saying that privatization in Nigeria has been a very big mixed bag. Like I said, look, there have been notable successes in sectors like communication and banking. We can't deny that, but it has had a continued challenges in powers and in petroleum. The future of privatization will depend solely and largely on government commitment to reform and to having stronger institutions and to have active engagement with both local and international investors. There is need to involve every stakeholder and see what is happening. The Nigerian government needs to have a deep conversation on how to go about this thing, and there must be a lot of transparency, because there have to be a lot of transparency, and we have to curb our mismanagement. We have to take away corruption and ensure that there is improved efficiency in all we do.
All right. Thank you so very, very much, Larry Toluhi, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on today's edition of the program. And that's how much time will permit us to take on today's edition. My name is Samuel Odi. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you again tomorrow. And up next is Insights Today. Bye for now.